tutorial. I'm going to be showing you how to make a basic pencil skirt. It's so simple and easy to make, and I'm going to be using a pattern to draft first of all before placing it on my main fabric. Now here I've already drawn out our waistline, waist to hip line, and waist to above the knee. Now don't be surprised, this pencil skirt is a mini skirt. It is above my knee, so I'm going to be stopping my full length line right there at the above the knee point. My waist to above the knee is 18 inches, and I've made it exactly so, 18 inches. You can make yours longer. It can be on your knee point, mid calf, or full long pencil skirt, anywhere you wish to. So after that, we go over to our width measurements. Now for the width measurement, like I explained earlier in the measurements video, I made a video earlier for our measurements. You can check the description box for the link to that video. Okay, so we have just one width measurement, which is our dart. Now my dart is 7 inches, and I told you that when you are drafting, you have to divide your width measurement into 2. So 7 divided by 2 is 3.5. However, I'm going to be adding ½ inch to my dart to make it 4 inches. And how do you measure your dart? You start from your waistline. You do your dart on your waistline. So I'm adding ½ inches to 3.5 to give me 4 inches. Now my dart also should be 4 or 5 inches deep downwards. I'm going to be making mine just 4 inches deep. Okay, now I'm going to ensure that this point is actually on a straight line. So let me ensure that 4 inches here. Then using my ruler, I'm going to be connecting both points together. Okay, so from here I'm going to be marking out ½ inch outwards on both sides of this line I just drew. ½ inch outwards, so ½ inch here and ½ inch here. Then I'm going to connect the lines using a slanting line like a V shape to the points where I have my 4 inches. Remember I said earlier you can make your darts a little bit longer by 5 inches or thereabout, but for me I'm making mine just 4 inches long. So I'm done with my dart, which is my only width measurement for my skirt. So I'm going over to the circumference, starting with my round waist. Now my round waist is 28 inches. When divided by 4 will give me 7 inches. But you have to consider the fact that you've already taken out 1 inch here for your dart. So you're going to be adding that 1 inch to whatever you have as your round waist. So if my round waist is 7 inches, when divided into 4, I'm going to add 1 inch because of this dart to make it 9. So from my middle front, I'm going to be marking out 9 inches. Okay, this is 9 inches. So I'm done with the waist. I'm going to over to the hip. Now my hip, when divided into 4, is 9 inches. Now because my dart is not reaching the hip, so I'm going to maintain the same 9 inches exactly. 9 inches there. Now when I get to my above the knee point, now if I'm making it using 9 inches straight, remember that our above the knee does not have the round circumference measurement. We only minus or increase from whatever we have as our round hip for the above the knee. If I'm making a straight skirt, I'm going to make my above the knee here or full length here 9 inches exactly. But if I want a pencil skirt, I'm going to minus from that. How much should I minus from my hip at the full length or above the knee point? That depends on me. If I minus up to 2 inches, that means my pencil skirt is going to be very tight at the full length point, which wouldn't be too convenient for me. So I'm going to be minusing just 1 inch, okay, to make things look better. So thereafter I'm going to be connecting all my points using a straight line. Please use your ruler. Okay, like in the introduction video I made, I'm a big fan of freehand, so you'll find me using my freehand to draft in most of my videos. But please, you want to ensure that you have all your sets at hand, okay, so that it will help you to ease things when you are drafting, like your hip curve, your armhole curve, and the rest. So you made your straight line all the way, connected all your points together. So now you want to go ahead and add your seam allowances. You can make your allowances just 1 inch, but I'm going to be making mine 2 inches. Okay, 2 inches seam allowances at each of the points. You can be doing it on the line as you go. 2 inch seam allowance all the way down at every point. Then of course you also connect the lines just like you did with your actual shaping line. You connect all your lines together. You can see it's very simple and easy to make your pencil skirt. So this is it. You're going to cut out on the border lines. And your border lines is where you cut out. You want to cut out very neatly on your border lines. Please ensure that you cut it out very well. Okay, then the next where the place to cut is our dart. So I'm going to turn it over and then cut out this V shape that you already made here on your dart spot. So I've cut out my dart. So the next thing I need to take it over to my main fabric and then cut it out on my fabric. So guys, here I have my material. It's actually an old fabric I want to reuse to make this pencil skirt for you guys. Okay, so I fold it into two, and then you must fold it into two, okay, because I made my pattern just one side. So but when you are placing it on your fabric, you have to fold your fabric into two so as to get the complete front piece. As you can see, my fabric is way more than my pattern. It's a good thing. So I'm going to be leaving about 1 inch, the whole of this brown area here, on my actual fabric, okay, for allowance sake. Then I'm going to trace out and then cut. Then I'm going to show you when I'm done. So guys, I'm done cutting my front piece, as you can see, because I folded it into two, so it's going to give me my entire front bodice. So now we are going to move over to our back piece. So guys, for the back piece, you still use the same pattern. Remember where you placed your full length line at your front piece, you left about 1 inch there. Also for the back piece, at this middle front, we are going to be leaving exactly 1 inch for the zip allowance, okay? Then for the back piece, we'll be having 2 for it, which we are going to be joining at the zip side. Meanwhile, the front is just 1 piece, okay? So now we'll go over to our sewing machine. Let me show you how to make it. In case you want to add lining to your skirt, you can do that by cutting lining exactly the same shape as your skirt is for full lining, okay? But I won't be doing any lining for this. I'm just going to be sewing it like that. So guys, the first thing we'll do to sew our pencil skirt is to start by sewing the darts together on the bad face of the material. Now this is the bad face of the material, so we start by sewing the darts. So in case you don't know how to make your darts, in order to make it efficient, you have to fold it into two at the dart point and then use your ruler to draw a straight line slanting downwards. Now your line has to be a little bit below the 4 inches line you earlier drew. So you make sure that you draw your line straight so that you can be able to achieve your darts very well. So the line you just drew is just to guide you on how long you're going to sew. So at the end of the day, your dart is going to come below the 4 inches line you first drew. Okay, so you do the same thing for the other darts, for the front and the back piece as well. So guys, I want to fix my zip now. I've gone ahead to sew from my 8 inches line downwards here. So I'm using this color of zip so that you can see very well. Please use a matching zip to your clothes. So I'm going to open this other side of the back, and then I'm going to ensure that the good face of the zip is facing this way. I'm going to be fixing this zip using the invisible method. Now if you look closely, this is the point where I started sewing from my 8 inches. So I'm going to ensure that this point is meeting here. Now I'm sewing on this other side of the zip for this part of the skirt. This other side will be going for this other part. So I ensure that it meets there, and of course you can see my zip is still enough for the upper part. Then I'm going to pin. Now when we get to the blouse section, I'm going to be showing you how to fix your zipper so that you'll not be having a bulge at the back. We're using the C-cut method, and so for the skirt, if you want to use that method, you ensure that you slant it out a little. So if here to here is 1 inch, here should be like 1.5 or 2 inches, but 1.5 will be okay. So I'm just going to be slanting the zipper here at the waistline a little bit inward. Let me put one more pin here so it will be in place. So you want to try as much as possible to sew close to this line here, the zipper line. But I advise you, if you've not done this before, you're a beginner, please sew a line first outwardly to put the zip in place before trying to perfect the line inwardly here. So we are done with that. We're going to be turning it this way. Okay, turning it this way so that we'll fix the zip for this other part. And how do we do that? The same way we're going to start pinning. Ensure that that edge is well placed so you won't have any bulge there as well. So you're going to pin all the way the same way you gave you slanted this other part of the skirt. Is the same way you'll be slanting this other part as well. 1.5 inch. You want to measure that out before sewing or pinning. Okay, then you pin all the way down. So now you go ahead and also sew it all the way down here. Then you sew here to all the way down, and by the time you open it, you'll be having your invisible zipper well fixed. So let me sew it and then show you after that. So I've attached my zipper. This is the back face and this is the good face as well. I've attached my zipper. So the next thing I'll go over to do now is to place the front on it and then do my shaping. This is the front piece of my back, the good face. Also, the good face of my front piece is going to be meeting with the good face of my back piece. Okay, you want to make sure that everything is well aligned. Make sure that everything is well aligned. The full length is aligned, the waistline is well aligned, the shaping line as well is aligned. Okay, so everything is in place. So I'm going to be using the back to do our shaping. There are so many ways you can shape your skirt. You can use your into 4 measurement or your into 2 measurement, but for this I'm going to be using my into 4 measurement, which I initially used when drafting the pattern. So let's go back to our measurement. At this side, from the zip side, is acting as the halfway between the width of my skirt. So on this other side, I'm going to go back to my measurement. Waist to hip is actually 7 inches, and waist to above the knee is 18 inches, which also is my full length because this is a mini skirt. Now this other part too, waist to hip is 7 inches, and above the knee is 18 inches. Now around waist is 7 inches. I'm going to mark it here. The round hip is 9 inches. I'm going to mark it here. Now, if you check correctly, initially we used 2 inches for our seam allowance. So at the end of the day, you should be having that or a little bit close to that 2 inches remaining on this other side for your seam allowance. Now, at the knee curve level, in case you're making your skirt longer, so you still have a lot of space down here at the full length line. But since I'm making my full length the same as my knee curve, so it's going to be in one place. At this level here, you may want to reduce whatsoever figure you have here on your hip for the full length or knee curve line. You might reduce by 2, you might reduce by 1. The higher you reduce, the more tighter your skirt will be at that above the knee point. So for here, I'm going to be removing just 1 inch. So if I have 9 inch on my hip line here, over here I will be having 8 inches. Okay, so the same thing goes for this other side. Waist is 7, round waist is 7 inches. The round hip divided by 4 is 9 inches. 9 inches. Then at the above the knee or full length line here, I'm going to be reducing 1 inch to make it 8 inches, and I'm going to connect all my lines together. If you watch the introduction video, I explained that I'm going to be using my free hand to make these patterns. I'm a big fan of freehand, but if you know you're not good at drawing lines perfectly with your free hand, please use your rulers, French curve, hip curves, so that you won't have any challenges. So I'm going to go back to my sewing machine and sew exactly on this line to make my shaping. I'm done shaping my skirt. I'm going to turn it over to the good face so you can see properly. So I flipped it over to the good face. This is the front face. This is the back of my skirt. Remember, I gave out a little inch allowance here for the slit. Okay, so now before you go ahead to fix your waistband and do your hem, you want to reconfirm your measurements. Now the round waist is 28, and by placing my skirt like this, it's on the 2 fold. Okay, if I do it like this, it's on 4 folds. So if it is like this, it's on 2 fold. That means I'll be dividing my circumferences by 2 now to reconfirm my measurement. At the round waist is 28 divided by 2, 14. You can see I'm having exactly 14 inches here. And over here, waist to hip is 7 inches, so it's on this line that I'm having my hip. And my round hip is 36 divided by 2. That will give me 18 inches. So I want to ensure that I'm having exactly 18 inches here. So you want to make sure that you reconfirm your measurement as well before you continue. Okay, so we are done.